The illusion of control power. We chase it our entire lives, over people, over circumstance, over the fragile flow of time. We build careers, gather wealth, accumulate influence, and call it strength. Yet the moment the mind falters, all of it collapses. Look closely at the world around you. Endless motion, noise, desire, each person trying to command the external while losing dominion over the internal. This is the paradox of our age. We seek to control everything except ourselves. Marcus Aurelius warned, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Modern neuroscience echoes his wisdom. The limbic system, the brain's ancient core, reacts before reason awakens. Anger, envy, and fear are born milliseconds before thought. We are not as rational as we imagine. We are emotional creatures pretending to be logical. Joe Dispenza explains that most people live trapped in chemical habits. Every thought triggers a cascade of hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, dopamine, and those emotions reinforce the same thoughts again. The cycle repeats, day after day, until we mistake reaction for reality. This is the illusion of control. To believe we are the rulers of our world while being ruled by our impulses. Epictetus would call it slavery, not to a master, but to our own passions. The Stoic understands that control begins not with conquest, but with consciousness. True power is quiet. It is the ability to choose your response when everything around you demands reaction. It is to remain composed while others tremble, to stay grounded when the storm rages. Modern neuroscience calls this cognitive regulation, the prefrontal cortex guiding the emotional brain. The Stoics called it virtue. Both describe the same empire, the mind at peace with itself. As long as you seek control in the external world, you will remain its prisoner. But once you turn inward, once you begin to master attention, reaction, and perception, you realize that nothing outside has ever truly held power over you. The illusion fades. The awakening begins. If power isn't over the world, then where does it begin? The empire within power begins in the only kingdom that can never be taken from you, the mind. Epictetus declared, "No man is free who is not master of himself." To the Stoics, freedom was never the absence of restraint. It was the sovereignty of reason over impulse. Imagine the self as an empire. Reason is the ruler, emotion, the citizens, desire, fear, anger, and pleasure. They all live within its walls. If the ruler is weak, the city falls to chaos. If the ruler governs with wisdom and discipline, harmony emerges. The same principle governs the brain. Modern neuroscience maps this ancient truth with startling precision. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of awareness, is the mind's ruler. It guides attention, judgment, and restraint. Below it lies the limbic system, the emotional body, driven by impulse and survival. When awareness rules, the emotional brain serves its purpose, alerting, not overpowering. When awareness sleeps, chaos reigns. Andrew Huberman calls this top-down control, the conscious direction of instinct. It is the biological foundation of Stoicism. Each time you resist an unhelpful reaction, you strengthen that circuit. Each time you pause before speaking in anger, you train the neural architecture of mastery. This is how power is forged, not in a single act of domination, but in thousands of moments of self-command. Musonius Rufus called this practice daily training for the soul. Neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity, the rewiring of the brain through repeated awareness. The Stoic seeks to rule the inner empire with justice, discipline, and wisdom. He knows that to be the master of himself is to be immune to tyranny from the outside world. External events may strike, but they cannot dictate. Fortune may turn, but it cannot dethrone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have within you a strength greater than what happens to you. That strength is the empire within, an order built not on walls or armies, but on clarity, calm, and reason. To govern oneself is to understand the difference between what can be controlled and what cannot. That simple distinction is the gateway to freedom. But every empire faces threats, invasions from within. For even the greatest ruler must confront the hidden tyrant that seeks to dethrone reason itself. But to rule the self, we must first understand what enslaves it: the tyranny of emotion. No empire falls faster than the one ruled by emotion. The Stoics warned that power without control over feeling is an illusion, a flame that burns itself. Seneca wrote, "Anger is a brief madness," and neuroscience has proven him right. When emotion takes the throne, reason abdicates. Inside the brain, the amygdala fires before thought, flooding the body with survival chemistry, adrenaline, cortisol, alarm. It is the echo of our ancient past, the primal reflex that once saved us from predators. But now, it makes us slaves to reaction. Joe Dispenza explains that when emotions repeat, the body begins to crave them like a drug. Anger becomes identity, fear becomes comfort, desire becomes dependence. The past hijacks the present. The Stoics saw this long before brain scans existed. They understood that emotion is not the enemy. Ignorance is. Feelings are natural, but when left unexamined, they become tyrants. The wise do not suppress their emotions. They observe them, question them, and command them. To feel deeply and remain composed. That is power. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. When provoked, he reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." He did not deny emotion. He transformed it. Anger became patience. Fear became vigilance. Grief became gratitude. Each reaction was alchemy, the transmutation of instinct into wisdom. Neuroscience describes this as emotional regulation, the prefrontal cortex stepping in to calm the amygdala's storm. Every moment you pause before reacting, every time you choose awareness over impulse, you strengthen that connection. The brain rewires itself towards serenity. The same discipline the Stoics called virtue, science now calls neuroplasticity. Daniel Goleman's research on emotional intelligence shows that true leaders are not those who never feel, but those who never lose themselves in feeling. They use emotion as fuel, not fire. Power does not belong to the loudest mind, but to the one that remains still while others burn. To rule yourself, you must dethrone your passions, not by violence, but by understanding. Observe your anger as if it belonged to another. Watch your fear rise and fade like a tide. You are not your emotion. You are the awareness that witnesses it. The Stoic masters lived by this truth. Emotion is the test, not the enemy. It is the training ground of character. Once the storm is seen, we can learn to calm it. The Physiology of Power. Every empire begins with order, even the empire within. The Stoics knew that the mind cannot rule if the body is in revolt. They trained their breath, their posture, their habits, not to appear disciplined, but to become unshakable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you are disturbed, return to yourself. The mind commands the body, and the body obeys." Today, neuroscience proves his wisdom. The body is not a servant of thought. It is its reflection. Every breath alters brain chemistry. Every heartbeat sends a signal of peace or panic. Power is not just philosophical, it is physiological. Andrew Huberman calls this state control, the art of mastering your internal signals before they master you. Slow, deliberate breathing activates the vagus nerve, calming the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, and restoring command to the prefrontal cortex, where reason and clarity reside. You are not calming your emotions. You are reclaiming the throne. Posture, too, is language. A bowed spine whispers submission to the brain. An open chest declares sovereignty. Each stance releases a distinct hormonal code: testosterone for confidence, serotonin for stability, dopamine for motivation. The body obeys what the mind believes, but the mind also becomes what the body practices. Joe Dispenza's research illuminates this feedback loop. When you intentionally change your physiology, breath, focus, movement, you send new information to the brain, reshaping neural pathways. Through repetition, this becomes identity. What begins as effort becomes effortless. The Stoics grasped this truth through experience, not science. Cleanthes spoke of walking in rhythm with nature. Epictetus urged his students to strengthen both body and reason, for the flesh is the vessel through which virtue manifests. A trembling hand cannot hold wisdom. A racing pulse cannot deliver judgment. To command your physiology is to command the gateway to your mind. Power begins not in dominance over others, but in regulation of self. In the invisible moments when you breathe consciously instead of reacting, when you hold stillness instead of surrendering to chaos. Each breath is a declaration of sovereignty, each pause a quiet revolution. Because control is not born from suppression, but from harmony, the alignment of body, mind, and will into a single disciplined force. But awareness alone is not enough. Even the most balanced ruler loses their kingdom without routine, without structure, without practice. To keep the inner empire from falling, one must learn what the Stoics called the greatest paradox of all, that discipline is the architecture of freedom. Discipline, the architecture of freedom. Freedom, the word seduces the restless. Yet most who chase it remain enslaved, not to tyrants but to themselves. The Stoics saw this paradox clearly, that without discipline, freedom is chaos, wearing a crown. Musonius Rufus called discipline the training ground of the soul. To him, philosophy was not words but practice, the daily shaping of character through repetition. Marcus Aurelius rose each dawn reminding himself he would meet the ungrateful, the deceitful, the selfish, and he would meet them with calm. That ritual was not habit, it was armor. Discipline is the quiet architecture of strength. It does not shout, it builds. Neuroscience now confirms what the ancients intuited. Repeated behavior rewires the brain. Each act of restraint forges new neural circuits of control. Each conscious choice strengthens pathways of willpower in the prefrontal cortex. Over time, effort becomes nature. The disciplined man is not repressing desire. He has redesigned it. Andrew Huberman describes discipline as the mastery of self-directed neuroplasticity, teaching your brain what to value through consistent focus. Joe Dispenza takes it further. Sustained action in alignment with awareness literally reprograms the body's chemistry. You stop living by reaction and start living by intention. To the Stoics, this was the essence of freedom. Freedom was not the right to do whatever you want. It was the power to not be ruled by what you want. It was the ability to choose virtue over impulse, principle over comfort, destiny over distraction. Seneca wrote, "No man is free who is a slave to his body." Today we might say, no man is free who is a slave to his dopamine. The one who cannot rise without his phone, cannot think without validation, cannot rest without excess. He has mistaken indulgence for liberty. Discipline is the antidote. It transforms the mind from servant to sovereign. Each time you delay gratification, you reclaim a piece of your autonomy. Each time you act with purpose instead of impulse, you prove that you are the architect of your own life. This is not asceticism. It is design. A builder limits material to give the structure form. The Stoic limits desire to give the soul shape. What looks like restraint from the outside is expansion within. To live without discipline is to drift, to be carried by every current of pleasure, opinion, and fear. To live with discipline is to steer, to set your course, knowing that storms will come, but your hands will not shake. For discipline is not punishment. It is preparation. It is the bridge between who you are and who you could be. And yet even the most disciplined fall to a subtler adversary, the mind's craving for endless reward. Because if discipline is the architecture of freedom, then desire is the architect of illusion. To build true power, we must first escape the dopamine trap. Desire and the dopamine trap. We live in an age intoxicated by pleasure. Every vibration, every click, every fleeting reward whispers, more. The mind obeys. It scrolls, it consumes, it chases. Yet beneath this endless stimulation lies a truth we rarely face, that the same chemistry that drives progress also breeds enslavement. Dopamine is the molecule of pursuit. It does not create pleasure, it anticipates it. It is the spark that propels you toward the next meal, the next message, the next victory. But when life becomes nothing but pursuit, when anticipation replaces fulfillment, you become trapped in what Andrew Huberman calls the dopamine loop. The brain begins to crave the chase itself, mistaking motion for meaning. The Stoics understood this long before neuroscience named it. Seneca warned, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." Craving, not circumstance, is the chain. The endless desire for stimulation erodes stillness. The one who cannot rest is not alive, he is merely reacting. Joe Dispenza explains that repeated indulgence in reward without effort lowers dopamine's baseline. Pleasure loses its taste. The mind dulls. The body demands more to feel less. It is the biological form of despair. Seneca called it moral fatigue, a soul exhausted from running in circles. This is the modern illusion of immortality, that tomorrow will always come, that there will always be another chance to start again. But the Stoics shattered this fantasy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. When you remember that time is finite, desire loses its tyranny." To the Stoic, the purpose of life is not the endless multiplication of pleasures, but the cultivation of peace. Pleasure without purpose weakens the will. Pleasure earned through virtue strengthens it. Huberman's research shows that linking reward to effort recalibrates the brain. It restores the balance between anticipation and satisfaction. Effort, not indulgence, becomes the source of joy. The disciplined man finds meaning in restraint, not excess. He chooses the long victory over the short thrill. He redirects the fire of craving toward creation, toward study, service, and mastery. In that redirection lies evolution. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Neuroscience agrees. When the prefrontal cortex overrides the craving circuits of the midbrain, freedom is restored at a biological level. Desire no longer commands, it obeys. The Stoic does not reject pleasure, he transcends it. He uses it as a tool, not a god. The wise enjoy a good meal, a warm sun, a kind word, and then let them go. The fool clings and suffers twice, once in pursuit and once in loss. To master dopamine is to master the illusion of endless tomorrows, because when you no longer live for the next reward, you finally begin to live for the present one. And when desire is quiet, reason can finally speak. But what should guide that reason? What principle anchors the mind when pleasure and pain lose their pull? The Stoics called it logos, the order behind all things. Logos, the order of reason. When emotion fades and desire grows silent, something else begins to emerge. Order, the Stoics called it logos, the rational structure that governs the universe, the intelligence that binds all chaos into meaning. To live in harmony with it was not religion, it was alignment with reality itself. Zeno of Citium described logos as the breath of the cosmos, the reason within all things, the same reason that animates the human soul. He taught that every person is a fragment of this universal order, a spark of divine intelligence endowed with the power to choose virtue over impulse. In this vision, wisdom is not learned, it is remembered, rediscovering the rhythm we were born from. Modern science, through a different language, reaches a similar conclusion. Jordan Peterson calls it the balance between chaos and order, the narrow path where meaning is born. Too much order, and life becomes rigid. Too much chaos and it dissolves into noise. But when both forces coexist in tension, creation happens. That equilibrium, the Stoics would say, is the signature of logos. Neuroscience calls this coherence. When thought, emotion, and action align, the brain enters a state of neural harmony, measurable synchrony between its regions. Huberman explains that this state enhances focus, creativity, and calm. Joe Dispenza adds that coherence is not just mental but electromagnetic. The heart and brain begin to beat in rhythm, producing clarity instead of confusion. The ancients would have called this virtue, the mind tuned to the frequency of truth. Marcus Aurelius lived by this harmony. As emperor, surrounded by noise and ambition, he sought not domination but alignment, with duty, with justice, with nature. He wrote, "The universe is change, life is opinion." In those words lies a reminder. The world shifts beyond our control, but our judgment, the lens through which we see it, can always be ordered. To live by logos is to accept that everything unfolds according to a greater structure. The Stoic does not resist it. He participates in it. He stops demanding that the world conform to his desires and instead shapes his desires to fit the world. This is not submission. It is harmony, the highest form of power. When you act in accord with reason, every step aligns with the current of the cosmos. You cease to fight reality, and reality begins to move through you. Chaos remains, but it no longer terrifies. You recognize its purpose, that without it, order would have no contrast, and meaning would have no form. In the modern world, this is the essence of psychological strength, the capacity to stay centered amid uncertainty, to perceive pattern within disorder. The Stoics achieved it through reflection. Neuroscience confirms it through regulation. Both lead to the same truth. Peace is not the absence of chaos, but the awareness of its order. But reason alone is not enough. Power without virtue becomes tyranny. Knowledge without morality becomes manipulation. The Stoic understood that intellect must bow to justice, that strength without service corrupts both the ruler and the soul. And so once we have found order within ourselves, we must learn its highest expression, the virtue of justice. The virtue of justice. In every age, men have mistaken power for privilege, but to the Stoics, true power was never about dominion, it was about duty. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." In those few words, he dismantled every illusion of selfish strength. For the Stoic, justice is not law, it is alignment with nature's moral geometry. Zeno taught that the universe itself is a single living organism. Each person, each creature, each atom plays a part in its harmony. To act unjustly, then, is to act against yourself, to break the very structure that sustains you. Power rooted in injustice may flourish for a season, but it always collapses under the weight of its own imbalance. Daniel Goleman's research on emotional intelligence reveals that ethical awareness and empathy are not luxuries of the spirit, they are markers of maturity in the brain. The prefrontal cortex, the same region that governs discipline, also governs moral reasoning. When empathy expands, reactivity shrinks. Neuroscience now confirms what the Stoics called oikeiosis, the gradual awakening to our connection with all humanity. Justice, to the Stoic, is not mere fairness. It is participation in the order of logos, the conscious act of living for something greater than oneself. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that his role as emperor was not to rule men, but to serve them through reason. He wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The clarity of that principle remains the foundation of all moral power. Epictetus went further. He believed that injustice harms the doer more than the victim. For in abandoning virtue, the unjust man corrupts his own soul, severing himself from the logos that grants him meaning. Justice, then, is not external order but internal integrity, the unbreakable alignment between thought, word, and deed. Jordan Peterson often describes this as the hierarchy of responsibility, to carry the burden of truth, to act rightly even when unseen, to place duty above desire. This is the architecture of moral power. It demands strength greater than aggression and endurance deeper than dominance. Seneca once wrote, "No one can live happily who has regard to himself alone." The Stoic's happiness is not indulgence, it is harmony with the good of all things. Justice transforms the ego's hunger for control into the soul's hunger for contribution. In serving order, you become part of it. And so, Power purified by justice ceases to corrupt. It elevates, it builds, it creates, rather than consumes. The Stoic leader does not conquer men, he awakens them. For when power serves virtue, it transcends the self. It becomes something radiant, enduring, a light that outlasts empires. And in that illumination, one discovers the rarest form of mastery: stillness. Stillness, the crown of power. Power is loud only to the weak. To those who have conquered themselves, it becomes silent, not absence of action, but mastery of reaction. The Stoics called this stillness, the point where movement no longer comes from impulse but from purpose. Seneca wrote, "He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior." And in those words lies the heart of all Stoic teaching. For the one who governs his own mind commands the only empire that truly exists. Stillness is not retreat from the world. It is dominion within it. It is to stand unmoved amid confusion, to listen while others shout, to see clearly while others tremble. Neuroscience now reveals the physiology behind this ancient truth. In moments of still awareness, the brain enters a state of synchronized coherence. The constant noise of competing signals, desire, fear, memory, fades into harmony. The limbic system quiets. The prefrontal cortex awakens. Insight emerges. Andrew Huberman describes this as the neural silence, where perception sharpens and emotional turbulence dissolves. To the Stoics, this silence was sacred. Marcus Aurelius sought it every morning before the world awoke. In his meditations, he reminded himself to be like the rock against which the waves break, yet it stands firm. He understood that storms are inevitable, but turmoil is optional. Stillness is not escape. It is resistance to chaos. Joe Dispenza's studies on deep meditation mirror the same discovery. As the mind slows its rhythm, brainwaves shift from frantic beta to focused alpha and theta states. The heart rate stabilizes, and the nervous system recalibrates. The body stops echoing the noise of the world and begins to reflect the order of the cosmos. Science calls it homeostasis. The Stoics called it virtue. This is why stillness is the crown of power, because it cannot be taken. It cannot be influenced, bribed, or broken. It is self-possession in its purest form. When you reach this state, the world no longer dictates your state of mind. Your mind dictates how you meet the world. Marcus Aurelius once compared the soul to a sphere, smooth, perfect, complete within itself. To be still is to become that sphere, untouchable by chaos, yet in harmony with all that surrounds it. In that poise lies strength. In that quiet, there is command. The modern world confuses movement with progress, noise with relevance, reaction with leadership. The Stoic understands the opposite, that mastery begins when you no longer need to prove, persuade, or possess. The truly powerful no longer perform for attention. They act from conviction. Stillness is not a pause before the next act. It is the act itself, the equilibrium from which all right action flows. And when the mind finally rests in that still point between thought and awareness, it sees what power was meant for all along. Not control, but understanding. Because beyond the noise, beyond the striving, beyond the endless pursuit of more, one truth remains. To rule the world, first you must rule your mind. And in that stillness, one final revelation waits: the birth of the sovereign mind. The sovereign mind. There comes a moment in every journey when the seeker realizes that the world cannot be mastered. Only the self can. The Stoics called this realization sovereignty, a quiet dominion born not from conquest, but from comprehension. Cato the Younger embodied it in defiance. Marcus Aurelius ruled with it in silence. Epictetus, born a slave, achieved it through understanding. For them, freedom was not granted by fortune. It was forged in perception. The sovereign mind is the one that has learned to govern thought, emotion, and action as a unified kingdom. Marcus wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Modern neuroscience now confirms this timeless truth. The mind, through neuroplasticity, becomes the pattern it repeats. Every reaction rehearsed strengthens its circuit. Every act of awareness reshapes its structure. Joe Dispenza describes it as the brain sculpting reality, intention molding biology. You become what you consistently think, feel, and choose. When anger arises, the untrained mind obeys it. The sovereign mind observes it. When fear knocks, the ordinary man hides. The Stoic steps forward, knowing that courage is not the absence of fear, but mastery over its influence. This is the ultimate power, not to bend the world to your will, but to align your will with wisdom. Andrew Huberman teaches that focus determines neurochemical destiny. What you attend to, you amplify. The Stoics practiced this as the discipline of attention, guarding the gates of the mind as a fortress. They knew that to think wrongly is to live wrongly, and to let the mind wander aimlessly is to invite chaos to rule. The sovereign mind no longer reacts to circumstance. It interprets, it decides. It acts from principle, not pressure. It draws its strength not from control over others but from indifference to what it cannot command. Amor Fati, love of one's fate, becomes its crown. For the one who accepts everything as necessary cannot be conquered by anything. In this state, the body becomes the servant of reason. The heart beats in rhythm with purpose, and life itself becomes an instrument of virtue. Neuroscience calls it integration. The Stoics called it harmony with nature. Both name the same condition, the unshakable equilibrium of an awakened soul. Power, once external and frantic, returns home. You no longer seek to dominate the world. You embody its order. You no longer chase significance. You radiate meaning. The mind, finally still, reflects the cosmos that made it, vast, disciplined, eternal. This is the Stoic art of power, to rule yourself so completely that nothing outside can rule you. The music fades, the world slows, the voice lingers. Control yourself, and you control everything. Silence follows. Not emptiness, but presence. The kind that feels like truth. Strength in stillness, power in discipline, wisdom in action.